Hi, I am Kiera and 28. My parents kicked me out on my 18th birthday. They waited until I finished my slice of cake, handed me a black trash bag, and said, "You're an adult now, go figure it out." No warning. No conversation. Just gone. I slept on a friend's couch that night with tears crusted to my face and my whole world in one bag. 10 years later, they were sitting in a lawyer's office, begging me not to take their house. And I looked them in the eye and said, I already bought it. Before I continue my story, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Speech balloon, drop your location in the comments. Bell, hit that subscribe button and stick around. Trust me, this one's personal. I grew up in Cape Town. Not the beachy tourist version. The quiet suburb version. My parents, Allison and Derek, were the kind of people who smiled for church photos, but whispered behind closed doors. Our house always smelled like lemon cleaner and stress. You know those homes where everything looks perfect, but you're scared to touch anything? Yeah, that was ours. I was the youngest of 3. My sister Mel had already moved out, and my brother Darren was in uni, so I was the last one stuck with the full weight of our parents' expectations. Smile more, Kiera. Why can't you be like your brother? Fix your hair. Lower your voice. Don't be dramatic. By 16, I'd learned to keep my head down and my mouth shut. But I had dreams, you know? Not the flashy kind. I just wanted to design buildings. Make spaces that felt safe. Warm. The opposite of our house. I'd spend hours drawing floor plans in the margins of my notebooks. I even made a little cardboard model of my dream home once. I showed it to my mom. She said, "That's cute, but don't expect to live in a mansion." So yeah, not exactly the most supportive vibe. But I worked. I applied for scholarships. Got into a decent architecture program. And then on my 18th birthday, they sat me down at dinner and said, "Congrats. You're an adult. Time to go." Like I said, one black trash bag. One couch. One broken heart. I didn't speak to them for 3 years. They didn't call. Didn't ask if I was okay. When I graduated, I sent them an invite to my ceremony. They didn't come. I bounced between jobs after college. Internships. Freelancing. Crashing on friends' floors. I didn't have money. But I had hunger. I took every crappy gig I could get: floor plan revisions, bathroom remodels, even drafting garage extensions. The hustle was real. Then, around 24, something shifted. I landed a contract for a boutique hotel renovation downtown. Small job. But the owner loved my work. He introduced me to his cousin. Then his cousin introduced me to someone else. By 26, I had my own design firm. Just me and 2 laptops in a rented storage unit with no heating. We grew fast. People liked that I wasn't just building buildings, I was fixing the feeling inside them. You know that quiet kind of success? The kind that doesn't scream but stacks? Yeah, that. Then, 2 months before my 28th birthday, I saw it. The listing. And my heart stopped. It was their house. My childhood home. The one they kicked me out of. For sale. The description said, "Motivated sellers. Foreclosure proceedings pending." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the universe? The universe was wild for that one. I bought it. Cash. They didn't know. They thought the bank owned it. Until I showed up. With a lawyer. And a letter. And the same deadpan expression my dad used to give me every time he said, "You'll never make it." And that was just the beginning. So yeah, I bought the house. My childhood home. The one where I was never allowed to shut my bedroom door. Where they used to call me ungrateful for crying. Where they told me this is our house, our rules. And then shoved me out of it like trash. Now, it was mine. And they didn't even know. The eviction notice was official. I didn't handle it personally, I had my lawyer serve it. Professionally. By the book. They called me 3 hours later. First it was my dad, voice full of venom. "What the hell is this? You're evicting your own parents? This is our home." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain. I just said, "Was. It was your home." He hung up. The next day, my mom called. Crying. Like actually crying for the first time in my adult life. "Kiera, honey, you can't do this. Where will we go?" I didn't yell. I didn't remind her of the day she left me at the bus stop with a plastic bag and a $20 bill. I just said, "You didn't ask me where I would go." Then I hung up. Listen, I'm not proud of everything. There were moments I doubted myself. Moments I felt like maybe I was being cruel. But then I'd remember my 18-year-old self, standing in the rain outside our house with nowhere to go and no one coming to help. And the guilt? It went quiet. See, this wasn't just revenge. This was reclamation. Because after I bought the house, I didn't keep it. I sold it to a nonprofit that turns foreclosed properties into shelters for at-risk youth. My lawyer called it a poetic choice. I called it healing. And I didn't stop there. Remember how my parents used to say I'd never make it without them? That you need to suffer to understand the real world? Well, I did suffer. I slept on floors, ate instant noodles for dinner 5 nights a week, worked 14-hour days. But I made it. And now? I own a design studio that specializes in low-income housing with dignity. We build safe homes, warm homes, homes that feel like love. I work with women's shelters, domestic abuse survivors, displaced teens. And every project I take on is one more version of the home I never had. Last week, I drove past the old house. The lights were on. Kids were laughing in the backyard. Someone had painted the front door yellow. My mom always said yellow was tacky. I smiled. I don't think I'll ever walk through that door again. But knowing what's inside now? That's enough. My parents? They're living in a rented 1-bedroom outside the city. They've called a few times. I don't answer. Not because I hate them, but because I don't owe them the version of me they couldn't love. Thumbs up, did you like the video? Tap that like button to show some love. Speech balloon, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Repeat button, share it with your friends and family if it touched you. Push pin, and if you're new here, make sure to subscribe for more stories like this. Your past doesn't define you. What you build from it, that's what makes you unstoppable. Red Heart, thanks for listening. Kiera. So about a week after the eviction, they showed up, unannounced, at my office. I wish I was kidding. I was in the middle of reviewing plans for a community housing project in Soweto. The kind of thing 18-year-old me would have cried happy tears over. Then Kayla, my assistant, buzzed in. Kiera? There's a middle-aged couple in the lobby. They say they're your parents. I swear the air left my lungs. I hadn't seen them in person in nearly 4 years. I almost told her to send them away. But a part of me needed to look them in the eye. One last time. I walked out and there they were. My dad in his stiff blazer like he thought he could still intimidate people. My mom clutching her purse like a lifeline. They both looked smaller, like life had chipped away at the edges of them. And for a second, I felt something close to pity. But then my dad opened his mouth. "This is your doing," he said. No hello. No apology. Just that cold, clipped tone. The one I grew up fearing. I smiled. "Yes," I said. "It is." My mom stepped in, eyes glassy. "Kiera, please. We're your parents. You can't just throw us out into the street." I blinked, then laughed. I mean, actually laughed. "Do you remember when you said the same thing to me?" I asked. Her eyes started away. My dad clenched his jaw. "We gave you a roof over your head for 18 years, he snapped. "And you've repaid us by humiliating us." That was it. That was the moment something in me clicked. "You didn't give me 18 years of shelter," I said quietly. "You gave me 18 years of fear." They went silent. Fear of being a disappointment. Fear of being too loud, too emotional, too me. "You didn't raise a daughter. You raised a punching bag." My mom started crying again. But I didn't flinch. "I begged you not to kick me out," I said. "I had nowhere to go. No job. No money. And you didn't even look back." "We thought it was tough love," she whispered. "No," I said. "It was cruelty." They stood there, staring at me. Two people who never really knew me. And now? They had no control over me. I took a deep breath, straightened my spine. "I don't hate you," I said. "But I don't owe you anything." Then I nodded at Kayla. "Please escort them out." As they were leaving, my dad looked over his shoulder. "You'll regret this someday." But the thing is, I don't. Not even a little. Because for the first time in my life, I chose me. Pushpin, drop a comment if you've ever had to walk away from toxic family. Speech balloon, the stories for anyone who's been told you're nothing without us. Spoiler alert, You are everything in spite of them. 2 days after they showed up at my office, I got a call from a reporter. Hi, is this Kiera Mthembu? I'm with Urban Digest. I'd love to ask you about a recent real estate deal involving a foreclosed home turned youth shelter. My stomach dropped. How did you get this number? She laughed gently. Let's just say, word gets around when something that poetic happens. Turns out, one of the nonprofit directors had posted about the house on Twitter. Just a casual thank you post. But someone did the math, traced the LLC, found the buyer's name, me, and someone else, recognized the address, figured out the backstory, posted a thread. Woman buys her childhood home after being kicked out at 18 and turns it into a shelter for teens. It had 87,000 retweets by the time I saw it. I sat there, just staring at my phone, heart racing. Because suddenly, everyone knew. My inbox flooded. LinkedIn, Instagram, even my old Facebook, which I hadn't touched in years. Some people were pissed. How could you do that to your own parents? Family is everything. Forgiveness is free. But most were cheering me on. This made me cry. I wish I had your courage. They kicked you out. You owed them nothing. The way you turned pain into purpose? Damn. One message stuck with me. It just said, you gave that house a soul again. A week later, the Daily Post called. They wanted to do a feature. From abandoned to empowered. One woman's radical act of healing. I almost said no. I hate attention. But my therapist said something that made me pause. Kiera, maybe this story isn't just yours anymore. So I said yes. The article dropped on a Sunday. Front page. Photo of me sitting on the steps of the old house, now the teen shelter, with the new sign behind me. Safe haven, a home for youth with nowhere to go. And suddenly, people started donating. Thousands. Then tens of thousands. We were able to add 3 more bedrooms. A counseling center. A kitchen upgrade. Every brick felt like another piece of my heart being stitched back together. And then, the wildest thing happened. A girl named Zara walked up to me one afternoon while I was on site. Probably 17. Hair tied back in a frizzy bun. Hands trembling. I saw your video, she said. My parents kicked me out last month. I've been couch hopping since. I looked her dead in the eye and said, you're home now. I thought the house would be my ending. Turns out, it was just the beginning. It was a Wednesday. Rainy. Cold. The kind of day that seeps into your bones. I'd just finished a late meeting with the shelter staff, talking about expanding intake for winter. I was tired. Soaked. Ready to collapse. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No voicemail. I ignored it. 2 minutes later, a knock at the door. I opened it. And froze. Mel. My sister. The only person in my family who ever saw me growing up. We hadn't spoken in 6 years. Last time I heard from her was when she messaged me after our parents kicked me out. She said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know they'd actually do it. I'm disgusted. But then, silence. Life moved on. People disappeared. Until now. She looked different. Tired. Older. But still Mel. Same green eyes. Same nervous smile. Hey, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't move. I saw the article, she continued. I cried through the whole thing. Still, I didn't speak. So she stepped back, rain dripping down her coat. Look, I get it. I don't deserve to be here. But I had to try. And that cracked something in me. Because out of everyone in my family, she was the only one who ever tried. She was the one who used to sneak me extra dessert when Mom said I didn't need seconds. The one who hid my report cards so Dad wouldn't yell if I got a B. The one who, at 15, whispered, you're not crazy. They're just mean. I let her in. She took off her coat. We sat on my worn-down couch in silence for a full minute before she spoke again. I should have done more. When they kicked you out, I should have fought harder. I let them scare me into silence. She was crying now. Ugly crying. And I just sat there, stunned. Not by the apology, but by how much I needed it. I missed you, I said finally. She looked up surprised. You did? I nodded. Always. We stayed up that night talking. About everything. The pain. The betrayal. The silence. The regret. Turns out, she had her own version of hell. Mom never let her go to art school. Dad called her a failure when she quit her finance job. She left the country for years just to breathe. We were two strangers tied by blood and trauma, finally realizing we were never the problem. The next morning, she asked if she could visit the shelter. So I took her, showed her the yellow door, the bunk beds, the mural the kids painted, the garden where Zara likes to read. And when I introduced her to one of the girls, Mel just smiled and said, "You're safe here. You're so safe." She stayed in town that whole week. We made tea every morning like we were kids again. We even drove by the neighborhood we grew up in, not to feel nostalgic, but to realize we'd survived it. Sometimes healing doesn't come from revenge. It comes from return, not to the people who hurt you, but to the ones who tried, even if they couldn't do much. You ever have that gut feeling? Like, your body knows before your brain catches up? That's what hit me the second I saw them. My parents, standing in the entryway of the shelter. Fake smiles. Clean clothes. Mom holding a tray of store-bought muffins like it was some sitcom visit. I was reviewing intake numbers when Kayla poked her head in. Kiera? There's a couple here who say they want to volunteer. Said they know you. My heart dropped. I already knew. I walked out and there they were. Allison and Derek. My mother's lipstick perfect. My father's arms crossed like he still owned every room he walked into. "Hello, Kiera," she said sweetly. Like we were old friends. "We brought snacks for the kids." She held out the tray like it was a peace offering. Like that could undo a decade. "You're not on the volunteer list," I said. "We just wanted to help," my dad cut in, that smug tone still laced in his voice. "It's important to give back, you know? And we thought, after everything, you'd appreciate the gesture." I almost laughed. This wasn't about helping. This was about saving face. Because after the article dropped, people knew. Neighbors. Church friends. Ex-coworkers. Their little bubble of reputation popped. And now they were trying to curate a comeback. Look at us. Supporting our daughter's amazing cause. "Nope. You don't get to be part of this," I said quietly. "Excuse me?" My mom blinked. I looked her dead in the eyes. "This isn't a photo op. This isn't a redemption arc. This is a safe space for kids who've been hurt by people just like you." Her smile faltered. My dad tried again. "We thought maybe we could reconnect. Start over. It's been long enough." I felt my chest tighten. "You kicked me out. You watched me suffer. You ignored every success I had because it didn't look the way you wanted it to." They didn't deny it. And in that moment, I realized they weren't here for me. They were here for them. Because suddenly, I was the successful daughter. The one with press. Interviews. Public praise. They didn't want to apologize. They wanted to align. And I wasn't going to let them. "You can leave," I said. My mom stepped forward, muffins still in her hands. "Kiera, please. We're family." I just looked at the tray and said, "Keep the muffins. Give them to someone who still believes in fake sweetness." Then I turned and walked away. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't second guess. Because healing isn't always soft. Sometimes healing is hard boundaries with people who only show up when it serves them. They haven't come back since. But you know who has? Zara's mom. She comes to every art therapy session now. Sits quietly in the back. Writes notes to her daughter after each one. Real change. Real love. No muffins required. Ever had to block your own parents to protect your peace? You're not alone. Share your truth. Someone out there needs your courage. 3 months after the shelter opened, I got an email that made me sit back in my chair and just stare. Keynote speaker invitation. Women who rebuilt themselves. They were hosting a panel at the Johannesburg Civic Forum. Nonprofits, youth workers, entrepreneurs. People who turned their trauma into change. I thought it was a scam. Until I saw the list of other speakers. Real women. Real fighters. Real stories. I wasn't sure I belonged. My inner voice, the one they planted in me long ago, still whispered, "You're not that important. Someone else deserves this more." But then I thought about Zara. And Kira. And that boy who cried when he got his first real bed at the shelter. So I replied, I'd be honored. The day of the event, I wore a simple black dress. Nothing fancy. Just clean lines and confidence. Mel came with me. She held my hand backstage and whispered, "You're about to blow them away." I laughed, nervous. Then stepped out onto the stage. The lights were hot. The room packed. 300 people, maybe more. I started slow. "Hi, I'm Kiera. And 10 years ago, I had nowhere to sleep." Silence. I had one trash bag, no money, and no one checking if I was okay. I paused. Let it settle. Now, I build homes for the kids no one checked on. Halfway through, I looked out across the audience. And froze. My parents. Sitting in the fourth row. Not clapping. Not smiling. Just watching. My heart thudded in my chest. I had two choices. Shrink. So I said. People think pain builds character. But what pain really does is make you choose. You either pass it on, or you break the cycle. Their faces didn't move, but I saw it in their eyes. They knew. I was done chasing their approval. I was done chasing their approval. Now, they were sitting in a room of strangers, watching me teach what they never could. After the panel, people lined up to hug me, thank me, ask how to help. My parents stayed seated. Eventually, they left. Quiet. Small. Just like the first time they saw the lawyer hand them the foreclosure letter. Later that night, I got a text. "Mom, we heard every word. We'll leave you alone now. We get it." I stared at the screen for a long time, then deleted it. Not out of anger, but peace. Because I didn't need their silence anymore. Or their noise. Or anything in between. My voice was mine now. And I was done whispering. Elmi, what moment made you finally speak your truth? Bell, if you made it this far, hit subscribe. We've got more stories to tell. More cycles to break. More homes to build. It was a regular Tuesday. Gray skies. Cracked coffee mug. I was knee-deep in budgeting spreadsheets for the next shelter project. And then Kayla rushed into my office, eyes wide. "Kiera, you need to come downstairs. Now." I followed her to the front entrance, confused. Figured maybe one of the pipes burst again. Or maybe another donor showed up unannounced. But when I got there, she was standing in the hallway, in a soft yellow hoodie, with a baby on her hip. Zara. I hadn't seen her in almost a year. She was one of our first residents. Came to us at 17. Scared. Stubborn. Angry. I remember the first time she ever looked me in the eye and said, "No one's ever stayed for me." I promised her. I will. Zara sat next to me, bouncing joy gently on her lap. "You built this place so people like me wouldn't fall through the cracks," she said. "And now, I want to help build more." She pulled out a folded piece of paper. A letter of acceptance. Architecture school. She'd applied. Got in. Said she wanted to design youth housing just like I did. I didn't know where else to go, she said. I didn't want money. I just wanted to show you. You changed me. I wiped my face, laughing through tears. You changed yourself, I said. I just held the door open. And that's when it hit me. This whole journey. The eviction, the house, the shelter, the speeches. None of it was ever about them. It was about this. Legacy that has nothing to do with bloodlines. And everything to do with impact. I didn't need my parents to be proud. Joy would be. And Zara. V got one more part in me. I thought my story was over. Honestly, I was ready to move on. The shelter was thriving. Zara was thriving. Joy was teething. My heart finally felt quiet. And then one afternoon, out of nowhere, I got a call from a lawyer's office in Constantia. "Miss Mthembu? This is about your grandmother's estate." I blinked. My grandmother? She passed away when I was 15. My mom's mom. Quiet. Stern. Always wore that thick perfume that smelled like old lavender and iron church dresses. We weren't close. Or at least, that's what I thought. "You were named in her will," the woman on the phone said. "But there's a letter you need to read first." I didn't ask questions. Just showed up at the office 2 days later. Old building. Heavy wooden desk. File folder with my name on it. The lawyer handed me the envelope. Cream paper. Cursive handwriting. My name. I opened it slowly. "My dearest Kiera, I've watched you grow into a fire they tried so hard to put out. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you the way I should have. Your mother was raised in fear, not love. And I'm afraid that fear, passed down. She always thought she had to be perfect. And when she couldn't be, she turned cruel. But you? You were never broken. You were bold. Brilliant. Too bright for a house that only knew shadows. So I did what I could. I left you something. I hope it helps you keep building what they tried to tear down. Always. Grandma Ruby. I sat there, not breathing. A fire they tried to put out. She saw me. The lawyer opened another folder. Inside, a deed, a key, a handwritten inventory list. Turns out, my grandmother had owned a cottage in Helderberg. Paid off. Private. Beautiful. And she left it to me. Not to my mom. Not to the family. Just me. She updated her will the year before she passed, the lawyer said. Specifically said, this is for the girl they'll abandon. I felt my throat close. They knew. At least, she did. She knew what was coming. Knew the coldness running through the family tree. And she carved out a piece of peace for me. I visited the cottage that weekend. It was small. Dusty. But sunlit. A garden overgrown with wild lavender. A chair on the porch that creaked like it remembered someone. On the mantel, there was a photo of me. Me at 6 years old, grinning, covered in cake. She kept it. She kept me. I'm not religious. But that day, standing barefoot in that cottage, I whispered a thank you to a woman I never really got to know. And I promised her, I will not let this end with me. 3 months after the letter, I got a message from an old real estate contact. Hey Kiera, you might want to see this. Link attached. I clicked it. It was a property auction listing. And guess what was up for sale? The last building my parents owned. Their prized downtown rental property. The one they always bragged about. Our retirement plan, my mom used to say. The building that'll keep our legacy alive. Well, apparently not. I called the agent, pretending to be someone else. Just curious. They were desperate to sell. Back taxes. Mismanaged tenants. Poor upkeep. Classic downfall. Starting bid? Our 1.2 million. Chump change compared to its potential value. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I smiled. Auction day came. I wore all black. Not because I was mourning, but because this was a funeral. The death of a version of me that used to beg for crumbs. Beg for warmth. Beg to be seen. The room was filled with suits. Investors. Men with clipboards and calculators. I sat quietly in the back, paddle in hand. Lot number 27 came up. The building. My parents' legacy. The auctioneer spoke fast. Do I hear 1.2? 1.2, 1.3. I stayed quiet. Until it dropped. 1.1. Still quiet. 1 million. And that's when I raised my paddle. Sold. The gavel hit. The room clapped. I didn't. I just stood up, walked out. And didn't look back. That building? It's now being converted into low-income housing for single moms. With one floor entirely for teen mothers. Guess what I named it? The Ruby House. After my grandmother. The only one who left me anything without strings attached. My parents found out, of course. A friend of a friend sent them a photo of the new sign. They didn't call. Didn't text. But I saw the post my dad made on Facebook. Our last property, stolen. Sad to see what the world has come to. No loyalty left. No mention of me. Not one word. And for the first time ever, I didn't care. Because I wasn't trying to hurt them anymore. This wasn't revenge. This was a rebirth. I turned every "you'll never make it" into a blueprint. Every "you're too emotional" into compassion. Every "you don't belong here" into a key. This is the last chapter of that story. But not the last chapter of me. Because I'm still building. And now, I'm unstoppable. Did this story hit you in the heart? Tap like to show some love. Speech balloon, tell me in the comments, what was your turning point? Repeat button, send this to someone who needs to know they're not alone. Push pin, and if you're new here, hit subscribe. We've got more real stories coming from people who turned pain into power. Thanks for sticking around. See you in the next one.